Welcome back to part 2 of our tulip painting. You guys will not believe what I did. Near the beginning of this video, I made a really kind of embarrassing mistake with my painting, and I did not notice it at all until the very end. Actually, you want to know what happened? I brought my painting and showed a family member, and they looked at it and they said, "That's really nice." And then they said, "Something's a little bit off with it." And they said, "What about this?" And I went, "Oh. Yeah. Uh, anyways, so I do show you how I fixed it at the very end, but don't worry, because what happened is I actually kind of deviated from my original drawing as I was painting. I had erased too much of the drawing, so I didn't actually see it, and I kind of took artistic license and just painted the shapes in. And so if you're following the original Etsy outline, you will be 100% fine. If you're following my original drawing, you will be fine. And I'm also going to provide the finished painting that is correct here for you to use as your reference. But keep an eye out for my mistake. I would love to know in the comments at what time in this video do you spot it? And I think you'll want to stick around to the end so you can see how I fixed my mistake. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to use these same greens again and do the same thing I did before. I'll add water to everything. I feel like there's still a little touch of something in my brush. Almost seems a bit, I don't know, red or something. I'll just wet all of the leaves, then I'll come back in and come in with my greens. So. All right, I don't have a whole lot of my green left, but that's okay. I'm gonna just go with what I have. And I can always mix more as I go. So I'm not coming right up to the petal here. I'm gonna just kind of come a little more carefully right up to the flower because I don't know how wet it is and I don't want it to, ooh, I'm doing a weird stem. Yikes. That was weird. Oh well. Let's see if we can come up to, yeah, I think I'm okay. I can come up to there. And I really don't like that stem. Sometimes you just do things and after you do them you go, oh, not so bright. I think this stem can kind of come in here. I should probably use a smaller brush. I have a little more control too. That's okay. I'm just going to get this color on here first and then I'm going to be coming in with the darker green. So just get one green on everything. A little bit of water. Try and be loose, but I feel like I've gone altogether too tight. You know what? I'm going to leave that stem or that leaf for now and just work on the ones that I've kind of already started because they are separated by the fact that this other leaf is in front. So I'm going to go ahead, drop in the darker green, and then I can come back to this one at the top after. So what I want to do is put the darker green kind of behind where these edges are meeting. And I will come in here after and do a little bit of separating them more. So we'll separate these two from each other. Just get some darker green on there for now. And definitely I want it darker where this one is meeting the one in front of it. And then a little bit back here where it kind of goes behind the tulip. And just come down here. Everything's kind of starting to hit a funny dry stage where I probably need to move along a little faster. Just want to drop this color in here so I get just some depth. Like I say, I'm going to be coming in with some details after, and that's going to bring these leaves to life. I just want to get the base layer on here first. Okay, let's go up here. And I don't mind these little bits of white. If you don't like those, just fill them in. I kind of do like them. So it adds a bit of looseness after we were so crazy tight with our petals and flowers. So that's my personal preference though. Let's just come up here. I'm working incredibly loose with this brush. If you would rather use a tighter technique, you definitely can. And I'm kind of recreating the edges a little bit with my brush so that I get a little bit more just kind of waviness with the way the petal is. And yes, I'm very, I kind of crossed the line there, but I was going to say I'm very, very puddly right now. And we could get blooms if we're not careful. It doesn't bloom as much with Arch's watercolor paper, but I'm going to soak those up just a tiny bit and then drop a tiny bit more of my dark in there. I probably should be using a different brush at this point, so I'm dropping a little bit less pigment and water in. Right now, this one is very, very soft and it's beautiful, but I feel like I'm kind of getting a little carried away with the wet techniques. So I'm going to switch brushes. The other thing I'm going to do is just dab that little bit there. That might not, I might have to wait and kind of clean it up after it's dry, but anyways, I might just go ahead at this point, use the hair dryer, and then I can come and refine things. All right, so I went ahead and dried the leaves, and now I'm going to come in and do the final details to the flowers, and then we'll come back to the leaves. What I want to do at this stage is add my quinacridone magenta and maybe a little bit of rose at this stage, and any other refinements I can see as I go. But right now, so I've got the magenta here, it's more purple, and rose here. And I'm going to use the two and just see how we do these final details, because there's a lot of beautiful shadow on this petal here. So I'm just going to come in here, wet the whole petal. I don't want it to be sopping wet though. I'm going to be a little drier than say some of my first layers. Just want to get that petal wet, and then I'm going to come in with my quinacridone magenta. And I wouldn't want to do this color too early on because of the purpleness of it, but it's beautiful right now, and it's just going to add a final beautiful touch to this flower. So I'm just coming along that edge, just trying to get a nice clean edge, and see how gorgeous that looks. I really like that color. It just adds this beautiful hint of this kind of purpley shadow that's also glowing. It's so pretty. I'm not sure if I even want to add any quinacridone rose there. It could get darker, like it could be darker there, but I just think this is so pretty. I might just use a little bit thicker quinacridone magenta rather than going in with any darker colors. I think that's just so pretty. Yeah, and I don't even mind the way it's kind of bleeding out like that. If you wanted to soften that a little bit with your water, you could, but I think that actually kind of adds to the texture of the petal. I don't mind that at all, so I think I will leave that. So over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to deepen the colors so I have more quinacridone magenta at the base. So I'll just once again wet this petal here. Now sometimes the wetting a second layer, sometimes it is helpful to have a softer brush to do that so you don't lift and drag the paint, because that can happen. You can end up kind of lifting a little bit of the paint that's underneath, and you can end up kind of, I don't know, making that yellow in a way disappear. But I think I'm okay with how it's behaving, and I'm just using a little bit of our quinacridone magenta. I'm coming on very, very concentrated down here. Ooh, I didn't know it was that concentrated. I wanted to come in concentrated. That's very, very deep and dark. Okay, let's throw more water in there and try to massage that out. And let it just move around. And now I have my smaller brush, my number 6, and I'm just going to just guide it a little bit to almost get a little bit of texture. So we almost get some creases and folds. So this is just a nice level of dry. It's not super dry, but it's drier than when we had it, you know, in our early stages. We wouldn't have been able to get as much detail. If you're not getting detail that stays, just give it a couple minutes, or not even a couple minutes, just depending on your climate. You'll have to see how long it takes before it allows you to just come in here and do these little strokes that more or less stay for you. They're soft still because we're in a damp shape, but they are kind of staying. I'm using a little water now to lift that out. And I know I'm sort of taking artistic license because these aren't very, very precise to what the photo has, but I like what's happening. So, and down here, yes, I know it's kind of doing that interesting bleed, but I think that's kind of pretty. I'll just maybe in a few places, just kind of curve it this way. Curve these a little bit this way to kind of go with the curve of the petal. But I think I like that. I might lift just a little bit of it here because I want that kind of light to shine in here. It's a very soft, lighter color right here, so just soften that a bit. Yes, I think I'm happy with that. Just some final details for that one. Okay, let's move over and try and do the same sort of thing here, but not as much because this one has a lot less purple undertones or even any purple in it, but it does have some. I feel like this one could have a little bit of our purple color and maybe even a little bit right here. Yeah, let's try in a few spots. So we'll put a little bit of water first. Let's do this outside petal. Again, I'm working fairly dry. Then I'm using tiny bit of quinacridone magenta, just the very far side. So the very far left side of this. And just call it good. And then we'll come into this other shape here and wet it. And I'm wondering if we're going to want a little bit of rose as well with this one, just because we are more on the orange side with this particular flower. We'll see. Let's just try the magenta, and if it's too purple, we can always lift a little bit of it out. So I'm going very concentrated. You can see I'm almost going into my dry paint there to do this. So I'm very concentrated. This color is very dark, and I'm going to actually pull this petal a little bit this way because it comes a little further. It kind of covers what we had there. So make this petal a little bit wider over here. So I'm changing the shape with my brush. I am liking this color. This lays on top of these other colors beautifully. And I want to kind of leave the idea that there is that sort of vein in the center here, this line where it's a little bit more peachy color. And I'm not being super photorealistic, but you can see I am getting a little bit of texture because we are just a nice level of dry. And I really do think part of it is climate. If you're in a dry environment, it will dry faster for you. But the other thing is just not putting too much water. And these brushes in this case, like you remember at the beginning, I was using the Artegria brush that's holding a ton of water, and I used that for my initial layers of water. Now I'm just working with these Simply Simons. They hold so much less water that I have a lot drier shape to start with before I even come and start doing all this. So that's something to keep in mind. Your brush will help you get these details easier because you're working drier. Ooh, I like that. I like the way it layered on there. I'm definitely going to need to add some here, but I'm going to want to wait. I think, well, we're so dry. I think I could even do that right now. Let's give that a go. Let's just again, using these brushes. So even though I'm kind of doing a wet on wet technique, this is applying such a little amount of water compared to what I did earlier that we can get away with it. So I'm going to put a little bit of that same beautiful quinacridone magenta in this section right about here. I feel like this is where things get the darkest. Ooh, that is so pretty. I like that color. It just does something a little bit different than the rose. Okay, clearly I should have waited. You see, I'm getting a tiny little bleed there. I can maybe lift it with a very dry brush, like whatever, not dry, it's damp, but I dried it well. We're being so persnickety. You guys are seeing how to deal with tiny details today. Okay, I kind of like that. And I will come and soften and just put a little bit of something on top of that bright yellow after. I'm gonna wait and do that later. Just soften that edge a little bit. And yeah, I don't know if there's anywhere else we need quinacridone magenta on this flower here. We could put a tiny bit in this tiny little shape here. Ooh, we're just being super dry, super tiny. Just coming on with just what tiny little bits on my brush. Those colors just went really good together. I really don't like the idea of mixing that quinacridone magenta in with a yellow because it gets a dull color, but when you're doing it on top like this, it's really pretty. If you're enjoying today's video, I'd love to invite you to join my free newsletter. In it, you'll find creative inspiration, art tips, studio updates, as well as be the first to know about workshops and lessons. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, you can sign up at the link in the description below. Now let's get back to painting. So why don't we work on the leaves while the flowers are drying? And I am seeing, I have something that's kind of working for me here. I think I can almost create a fold I didn't intend to put on here, but isn't that pretty? We could create a fold right there. So I'm going to do that. And then remember that I have a fold here. So we're going to have darker colors on the other side where there's a fold. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And then right here, I'm going to make this one come in front like that. So this is going to be darker here. So I just did the pencil lines to kind of help me remember what I'm doing. And we're going to work on one shape at a time. And we are going to work with drier techniques. So I need to mix up a little bit more of my green color here. So I'm going to quickly do that. So I'm going to start with yellow and drop the yellow into my well, and then take some of my phthalo blue. Now that's very bright. And then I'll dull this down with a little bit of red, or anything that has red in it. Any of the purple colors would work fine for dulling things down. Why don't we just take some of the purple that's right beside it? You can see it's going to turn a little bit more of an olivey color, which is what I'm wanting. I want it just to have a little bit more of a natural look. I might need a little bit more of that red color. Just take some from over here. And then I'll probably need to add more yellow, because I'll probably end up getting too dark and dull. But yeah, too dark and dull. Very much so. I'll add more phthalo blue. That'll get us back to the bluer green side, and then I'll throw a little more yellow to kind of brighten up a little bit. So now we're here. So we have a nice dark green. And we'll use a little bit more yellow. Yeah, I think I'm happier with that color. And we can water it down, of course, too. So I have my smaller Artegria brush. This is a number 8, and I'm going to wet this little shape in here. Just get the water on it. And then what I'm going to do is use my number 6, Simply Simon's. And this one is the one I'll use for detail, but I'll also use it just to drop in some color. So we want it to be darker in here, along where the edges are meeting, to kind of give it the impression of being a little bit behind the one in front. So that's what this is going to do. Just dropping it in there. You can see I'm quite wet based on the way it's bleeding around. But I think that's really pretty. And you can kind of get the impression now, can't you, that it's kind of folded over and it's behind. Then I will work over on this shape and do the same thing over here. Just fill it in with water. And if you don't want as much water, you could use a firmer brush for this. I'm still kind of letting these first layers come on. Well, I'm actually, I can tell I'm a little drier right now with this brush. So again, the area where it's close, where it folds over, this is the area I want it to be darker. This is the area that's behind. So I'm dropping a little bit of this color in here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty. And then this one, we're going to eventually need to push it behind this one, but we can't do it right now because of the way things are wet. So I'll come and do this shape. And with this one, you know what? I am going to use Simply Simon's to wet it because it gives me just a little bit more of a dry, controlled application. Like it's, how do you call water dry? I'm not sure. I don't know. I just feel like it comes on more evenly, and I feel like I'm going to have a little more water control just because I don't know, that firmer brush definitely just helps with that water control. So drop that green in there, and then I'm going to just guide it around. As it dries, I'm going to just kind of do these almost like linear veins in here, stripes. And I'm going to have to do this. I'll drop it in, and I can tell it's too wet right now to achieve the stripes. So I'm just going to drop some more of that dark in, and I'm just going to keep kind of playing with it, give it a little second, see if I can do a stripe now. Yep, it's just a matter of seconds. Now I have more lights on over my artwork, so it's probably drawing things faster. You might have to give that 20 seconds rather than 5, but experiment. You can see how I can get that little bit of texture in there right away. I might even take a little of my ultramarine blue and add the odd little stroke with it as well, just for some variety. I feel like we really do need a little bit of our orangey color in our leaves in a few places, just to harmonize things. I'm not sure if I want to do that right here. Should we try it? Let's try it. Let's drop a little bit of coral. So I'm grabbing my palette from over here. Let's move everything over. I'm realizing I'm sliding around, and that might be an issue for when I'm putting the reference photo in. I'm going to drop a little bit of this coral color right here and see what we think about it. Do we like that or not? I don't want to massage it too much, but I want to guide it around, maybe create a little bit of that linear movement. I think that's okay. Do you guys think that makes it look dead? The other color we could add is more like the magenta color rather than the orange color. We'll leave that one there for now, and maybe in some places we'll use the magenta instead, just because the orange does harmonize things, but I'm just not sure if I like it quite as much. Sometimes you think about orange on a plant is kind of ugh, right? So I'll put a little bit of this green right here. I'm going to darken the stem more to the left. This particular reference photo is really interesting. The light source is some kind of artificial light, I think, so it's not quite as the same as if it was outside, but it's okay. I'm going to do my shadow on the left side. Drop some water into here, and then I will do these nice straight lines. Okay, you know what? I didn't wash my brush well after I put that coral color on there. I was wondering what the issue was. I felt like it was more coral than I remembered it being. Imagine. Just do some nice linear strokes. I'll drop a little bit more of the dark right where the edges are meeting, right down here. And then, like I say, give it a little minute and try and cover this one up a bit. It's kind of working. It's almost a little bit too wet still. It's getting there though. Yep, it's starting to show. I'm starting to be able to achieve those little lines. Put a little bit of this ultramarine blue a little bit. Maybe in this area we could try a little bit of quinacridone magenta. Let's experiment. So I've got some on my brush over here. This is where we need to be oh so careful that we don't overdo. But I think it could be really pretty right there. This is a strong color. But it works, doesn't it? It kind of just has a little bit of that glow. We could always do that as a second layer. If you're concerned about the muddiness you could do it as a second layer, because sometimes once you add it, it can bleed around too much and create mud. But I think I'm okay with that right there. I think that's pretty. I feel like I'm almost too stripey. Do you guys think it's too stripey? I think it's too stripey right there. It's starting to look like, I don't know, not like a leaf anymore. All right, let's try. This one's almost dry enough. I think I could try it now. Just this little section here, and I'll just do it with green. I'm not going to add any extra color. I just did that up there for some harmony. Down here, I'm just going to make this shape nice and dark to help push it behind all the shapes that are in front of it, because it's kind of back here, isn't it? There's a lot of petal or a lot of leaf shapes that are in front. Just soak it up a little bit in the middle. And then we'll do a little bit to this stem here, same idea. And we can definitely do this stem here. I'm thinking I wouldn't mind even extending it, just smoothing out the side of it more to the right here, because I kind of got a rough edge when I did that. I don't know. It's a little bit funny, but that's okay. I can get a little bit darker kind of underneath the flower. Eesh, almost going on the flower there, but Let's go more to the left side with our darker green, and darker when we come where the edges are meeting down there. I might lift a little bit right here just to kind of lighten, bring a little bit more life into that stem. Might grab a third brush and drop a tiny bit of my magenta right here. See what we think of that. I think that works okay. And with this shape here, things are kind of dry enough. I think I can go ahead and do a little bit of detail. I like how bright and vibrant it is though. I don't want to over darken things with this next layer, so I'm gonna have to be really careful. So I'll add some water. I just want to add just the smallest amount of detail without having it kind of disappear on us. So I'm going to darken right here where it kind of meets up with this one in front of it. Right here it gets a little confusing. I might even just leave a little lighter stripe there as if it's part of that, and I can kind of join that after. And then just do a few gentle strokes. I don't want to overdo. This one I really like how bright and beautiful that green is. So just do a few nice linear brush strokes and call it a day. Ooh, not liking that so much. Okay, let's leave this be. Because like I say, I don't want to overdo this one. There's a little bit rough edge here. We'll fix that with this. Softening with my water brush. Okay, I really like that, I think. I'm gonna do barely anything to this one either. I really like it, but you know what we do need to fix on this one? This is where we had that kind of issue where I leak things over like so. And so I'm just gonna use my, I call this my scrubber brush, but it's a shader brush. And I just scrub with it just to kind of get rid of some of those little wonky things that I do. There we go, it's coming off. Yeah, like I say, I don't want to do too much to this one, but maybe we'll put a little bit of water, not too much. I'll just throw a few details on here. We could actually kind of come in here and give it the impression that it's, I'm leaving a little lighter strip there, and then I'm coming up with these details, kind of like this. Move my hand a little bit too, shouldn't I? Something like that. I don't know. That's looking wonky. Just lift that out a bit. Just using my water brush right now. Lifting. I don't mind how that looks there. It's kind of did a little bit of an interesting thing, but I think I like it. It's a little bit dry in that center area, but just add a few gentle details here. Maybe a little bit here. I don't know. I'm probably starting to overwork things a little bit. Overworking and overthinking, which isn't a good thing. And it's starting to get late as I'm painting this, which means probably extra reason why I'm overthinking. Let's leave that alone. We just have to do this petal here, and we might be able to, or leaf here, and I think we can, because I kind of didn't go that wet right up along that edge. So let's just do that last one. And it just, we have to remember it's part of this one, so we do want to kind of have it more or less have some amount of green so that it's matching, or darker green I should say, so that it's matching. Let's drop some along this edge here. I think even just doing that much is starting to help. And definitely kind of along the bottom side of this, ooh, you can see where I did have some water touching it. It's bleeding kind of funny, so that's not so great. Let's see if we can, sometimes you can clean it up. Not so well. Let's just drag this down, and then I will try and clean up the mess I made. Okay, this is where it's sometimes you have to do it after it dries because it can end up kind of pushing and pulling a little bit and you can end up with some weird blooms. That's why you always make sure shapes are dry. And I think I accidentally crossed the line when I was adding water, or there was water that close. Either way, we're getting a kind of a soft, mushy section here, which is okay. I'll just clean it out like this. You guys are seeing lots of mistake fixing, so now you know how to fix these things. It's better to err on the side of taking too much paint out than what you actually think you need. And we have like a mushy mess. Once that dries, I can come back in and refine that. So that's what I'm gonna do with this. I'm gonna grab the hairdryer right away, and so you can see me fix that. So you can see it's not terrible, but I think it could have a nicer edge there, right? So if I come in with my water and try and stay in the line, then I can take a little bit of my green and define that line. We're on the shape we just wet. We're staying on that shape. Just like so. I'm just gonna bring a few of these downwards a little bit. And then I think what might be pretty is to just put a tiny, tiny touch of the quinacridone magenta here so that it harmonizes with everything above. So I'm going to do a little tiny bit of it right here and then drag it down. Yeah, and then with that petal here, I'll just clean that out when it's a little bit drier. If I touch it right now, I'll just end up making a big mess again. So we do want to finish a little bit more of this one. I think this one's looking washed out. So we're going to come to this petal here, and I don't know. I'm debating if I want to do anything to that back petal to separate them. But for now, we're going to focus on this one. So to start with, I'll just fill it with water. And if you're happy with yours, you might not need to do this. I just obviously don't have enough of my colors in here. And I'm going to put a little more of my quinacridone rose first. So it's going to blend better with the orangey color. So I'm putting it closer to the orange, kind of all in this area here. I know there is some oranges there. I could probably even, I'm not sure that I want to touch, I don't think I want to get into my coral again because that'll introduce more yellow, and I'm hoping I can just do this in one shot. And quinacridone rose and magenta will work well together, but the magenta and anything that's got yellow in it doesn't work quite as well together. So I'm hoping that won't bleed too much into the yellow. I'm okay with the way that bleed is looking right like that right now. I'm just gonna sit here for just a minute and kind of see what happens. Yeah, it's staying okay. So I can come with a little bit more of the magenta color. Again, in these areas where we had the magenta already, but I think it could be pushed just that smidgen bit more, just in those couple of places. A little bit there. A little bit there. I think that's okay. I think I'm okay with that. Just added just a little tiny touch of life. I felt like that one petal was looking a little dull or dead to me. I could probably even use a little bit more of my rose kind of towards the center here. We don't need quite as much coral in the middle. We could see that area shining through, right? Or the light shining through more. We don't need quite as much light is what I should say, shining through that petal. I think it's a little bit, could be a little bit darker. I think I'm liking that better. What do you think? Did that help, or am I starting to overwork things? I think I'm going to let that be. I think I'm going to let that be like that. And this is dry enough. I can probably use a little bit of that deeper yellow. So we'll grab a little bit of yellow, a little bit of this muddy color. It's kind of just a duller orange, and put just a little bit right here. More yellow. We're going to be able to create a little bit of definition just between those petals. So soften it with a water brush. Yeah, that's better. I think I like that better like that. Hopefully I've got enough water up here. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. All right, so this is when I've just had my enlightening conversation with my family member who helped me notice my problem. I'm going to be tweaking these stems and leaves. First with a pencil, and then I'm going to be coming in with my paint. Hopefully your painting worked out just fine because you followed my final painting as your reference. But I thought you might still have fun watching me fix this because it's always interesting to see how other artists fix their watercolor mistakes. So I will take a little bit more light green. So I've just taken a little bit of my yellow and this darker green we've been using all along, a little more phthalo blue, to try and get that lighter green color that we had at the beginning. And you'll see me kind of correct this. So I'm dropping some lighter, brighter green down here. I'm going to actually do a little bit of scrubbing right here to kind of join that together. And I'm going to just bring it right down. That actually works. I can make this, whoops, I can make this all one stem coming down more into here. And then I will kind of tweak this right here a little bit. Yeah, that's going to be better. I'll come in and clean that up a little bit in a minute. It's a little bit, I made it a little bit messy. So I'll just wash that up a little bit and then I will finalize the details. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm probably going to have to scrub to get rid of this hard line here. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. So basically just scrubbing in this area here. And so I can kind of turn this or blend it into one leaf. Yeah, that works. So even though they say that watercolor is a very hard medium to fix, you can see there are adjustments to be made. I couldn't have lifted the stem out by any means, but I can kind of do a little bit of scrubbing and blend these new shapes in a bit. So just adding water, and then I will come in with just some more water here just to blend. So I'm just going to soften the edge, and then I'll put a little bit of darkness on this edge as well. So I'm taking some of the darker green paint that I've used all along. Yeah, I think that's actually working. I'm going to put a little bit of the darker green under here too. And help give the impression that this is all indeed one leaf. Put a little bit more dark there. And I'm just going to dry this, and then I'm going to come in and just kind of define this little shape just a smidgen. And then I'm just going to come in like that. Yeah, I think that's okay. And then I'm going to just soften the edges with some water. Just wanted to kind of define that edge a little bit. I don't know if it really mattered. It was one of those things I was noticing, but I don't know if it actually made enough of a difference. I'm kind of washing that out. Yeah, I think it's okay like that. And one last thing I want to soften is this little yellow shape here. I just want to soften it a little bit so that it's a little bit less stark. So I might even use my little scrub brush. Ooh, it's got green on it. Lift that out and just scrub just a tiny little bit of that line there, just so that it's a little bit softer. I think I'm happier with that. Yeah, you could always add a little bit more yellow if you want to with that. I'm not sure that I need it. Yeah, I don't want to put too much yellow there because I think it'll kind of go ugly with some of my other colors. I think I'll probably just more or less just add a little bit of water. And then I'll go ahead and dry it, and I think I'll be happy. I might just add a tiny little tweak. Just pull this down a little bit. This is part of this petal here. If you've enjoyed this video and you appreciate seeing the process of me making mistakes and correcting them and seeing a painting come together from start to finish, you'll enjoy my watercolor playlist where you can find more videos like this one. In the meantime, I hope this tutorial has brought a little taste of God's beauty and peace into your everyday life and that it's inspired you to continue enjoying your own creative journey. See you again soon. Bye!